So, for those of us who are, I'm going to say, more mature, special vintage, let's put it that way. So you've got age there as a potential barrier to exercise.
I suppose it's more
What's the
to
issue?
do, yeah, it's more to do with the preconceived ideas of someone saying, "Oh, maybe I'm too old to get started. Why would I change now?" And actually saying, "No, everybody will benefit from physical activity. Particularly, as you get older as well, thinking about the importance of resistance type activities. What I mean by that is something which is against resistance. So either a body weight activity or using something like a resistance band, something like that, helping with, bone strength and muscle strength and so on. So yeah, that's more about actually breaking down, some ideas which we know, isn't necessarily true.
So, Sam, I'm going to ask you because I think there's some evidence behind this that you can benefit from exercise at any age you start. Do you want to just say a few words about that?
Yeah, I mean, that is exactly right. You can benefit from exercise from any age you start. You can also benefit from exercise from any amount that you do. And it's been shown that actually 2 minutes walking can have a physiological effect. And actually, the worst thing you can do is be sat down all day. We try and use this in exercise medicine. We say any activity is better than none, and more is better still. So we're trying to get people to sit less, move more often, and it's just been shown that as adults, in general, we spend over 7 hours a day being sedentary. And if we can limit that time, that sedentary time, even as we're sat here talking for an hour, if we could have a break in between and walk around for 1 minute, that's going to have a significant effect in the long term. And all these small amounts add up. So, and that's regardless of age. I think once we get older, once our vintage matures, we start to lose muscle mass, we start to lose bone density, and it becomes much harder for us to do some of these physical activity. But we can prevent a lot of that by doing small amounts of physical activity regularly. And that's why we say small and often.
So you literally said 1 to 2 minutes there, Sam, didn't you? Just repeat that for me, please.
Yeah, the study showed 2 minutes walking can have a significant physiological effect. So that's breaking up that sedentary activity on a regular basis. So you can even start with that. Say, I'm going to walk for 2 minutes every 2 hours. That's going to have a significant effect. And we spoke about weight loss actually, and although physical activity isn't the biggest thing to weight loss, the physical activity that has the biggest effect on weight loss isn't the targeted exercise. It's the day-to-day activity that you do. So that's that non-exercise activity, we call it NEAT, but that non-exercise activity, the step counts, the walking to the bus, the walking up the stairs, those are the things that actually have a significant effect on weight loss as well. So if that's something that's something that's going to push you to do more, physical activity is I can't describe it any more than saying it's a miracle cure for nearly all disease, but specifically type 2 diabetes.
So let's talk a bit more. First of all, we're going to have a look at what it can look like, that 1 to 2 minutes or more if you want to. And with regards now to diabetes, how does it affect things like your blood glucose levels? What effect does physical activity have on that?
Physical activity in type 2 diabetes, there's lots of good things that being more active can do for you. It can improve your glycemic control, and that actually means your glucose level. So for those of us who have type 2 diabetes and are monitoring their blood glucose levels, you might notice that over a long period of time, when you get a blood test called your HbA1c taken, which measures your glucose over a long period of time, increasing physical activity can improve this number, but it can also improve your day-to-day numbers. Whether you've been shooting up after you have meals and it's been going really far down when you're taking your insulin, if you take that, or you're taking your medication, actually it's been shown that physical activity can hugely improve that. It improves your blood pressure, improves cholesterol levels, which can in turn affect your glucose levels as well. It reduces your need for medications in general. And also the most important thing I would like to say is it reduces diabetic complications. So type 2 diabetes is a long-term condition. People tend to have it for long periods of time, have it for life. And the more and worse that their diabetes is, the more complications they have. Now, specifically, aerobic activity can improve your blood glucose, but it also improves your cardiovascular risk. That's really important because those with type 2 diabetes have a 2 to 4 times prevalence of cardiovascular disease. So that's heart attacks, chest pain, angina. They're 2 to 4 times more likely to have these things, but exercise can reduce that. Physical activity can reduce that.
Sam, you said about aerobic activity.
Yeah.
What does aerobic activity actually look like?
So, I mean, aerobic activity is the ones that get your heart rate up by doing physical activity such as walking, running, going on a bike. So that's rhythmic, continuous activity that keeps your heart rate at a particular level. And that's what I would define as aerobic activity.
And things like, Leonie, I'm going to ask you, so things like lifting the tins of beans or something else, there are other options available. What type of exercise is that?
So that would be resistance, so strengthening exercise. So, as we were saying before, no equipment at all. You can do strengthening exercises with just your body weight. If you was to hold your arms out against a wall and lean towards it, you will soon notice the muscles in your shoulders and your chest kind of working hard. So anything against the resistance.
So that type of resistance exercise, Sam, if I'm lifting shopping bags or something like that, that can raise my heart rate. Sometimes I feel like my heart rate's going. Is that going to help with the cardiovascular risk as well?
There is a massive crossover with resistance activity, and also obviously depends on the intensity you do that resistance activity and how heavy the resistance is as to whether your heart rate is going to increase. But those are all independent markers that actually still improve the outcome. So you can become more aerobically fit from doing resistance activities, but the main goal of resistance activities is to improve that muscular endurance and muscular ability. And that's actually important because I mentioned the bone density and the muscle loss that we get when our vintage improves over time. That can be reversed and slowed down by resistance activity. But also specifically for diabetes, we get complications such as diabetic eye issues and diabetic foot issues and a peripheral neuropathy, and the increased blood flow from resistance activities can actually slow down those complications as well. So it really is a be all and end all in terms of improving your generic function when you have type 2 diabetes.
So we've got so many wins here. I think we need to stop and just recap on them. So short term, it can improve your glucose levels. We know that with physical activity, sometimes, depending on the type of medication that you're using, it may make your blood glucose levels go low. So if you're on things like insulin or what we call sulfonylureas, that type of medication, which makes your blood glucose go down or can make your blood glucose go down, force it down, then you are at risk of what we call hypos, so the blood glucose levels going low. But we hope that you avoid hypoglycemia, but get a better blood glucose level. I want to ask you, in the short term, Sam, is there a blood glucose level at which it's okay to start physical activity? I mean, like, on a particular day, is there a blood glucose level at which you need to do something about it before you start activity? What would you say?
So again, this is probably quite individual, and we need to look at your numbers across time as well. I think anyone doing any physical activity with a blood glucose of 4 or less is probably in danger of becoming hypo during that activity. But if you have good blood glucose control, anything above 6, 8 should actually be fine. And the caveat is that this is very individual, and you do need to look at if you're monitoring your blood glucose regularly, you need to look at what your numbers look like and how you feel with those numbers, because we have elite athletes who run at very low blood glucose levels for long periods of time and don't have an issue with that, but their bodies and their mitochondria and their function of their the individual needs is completely different to you, and actually each person is going to be completely different. But my number that I would say is a bit dangerous is 4. And please, if you've got a blood glucose level of 4 or less, please do not start exercising, and look to either seek medical attention or get some advice from someone, or take some form of glucose to bring your levels back up.
Yes, so certainly I would agree. If it's around 4, people need to be having their hypo treatment, and also a long-acting carbohydrate to prevent the blood glucose levels going down again. And that's not the time to start exercising. And that sort of ideal level is around 6, 7 plus. Usually advised up until about 13. And above 13, you need to be taking some other some other intervention to mitigate that. But yeah, somewhere between 6 and 13 is the ideal, but as we always say, highly individual. So thanks for that. So on a day-to-day basis, it can affect your blood glucose level. Leonie, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I just thought, I did want to speak about intensity, and I thought now might be quite a good time to speak about the intensity of the physical activity that you're doing. So on the right here, you can see this scale from 1 to 10. It's got it here, rate of perceived exertion. It just means how hard do you feel you're working at, actually. And it goes from 1 being very light, just sitting really, and goes up. And we like to aim for that moderate, what feels like moderate to you. And, just from what you were discussing there, how high your that intensity is, if you're just starting, and especially if you're experimenting with, maybe your blood sugar levels aren't quite as controlled as you'd like them to be, actually starting at very light and very gradually going into that moderate level, and just monitoring how your body reacts there is going to be really important to you. And you don't have to go into the vigorous activity, but some people might feel, if your blood sugar levels are controlled, and you've been following a regular activity routine, you might want to start experimenting with that. But that level, we would only go into 30 seconds, a minute, and then you'd go back down into your more moderate activity. And I did include this into the slide about barriers to exercise, and that was where I was talking about time, and actually just recognizing that the higher the activity intensity is, the less time you would have to do it for to see benefit. So that's something to consider on that side. But yeah, this scale of intensity is very relevant for what we were just discussing as well.
So I want to bring you to another point, Sam. If, let's say, we're doing, as Leonie has suggested, we're at a certain fitness level, we can do the high intensity, it may be for a short time. What are the risks, perhaps, of somebody doing that high intensity exercise?
So I think it's really important to know that there is a risk of hypo when you do a significant increase in exercise. But that's only in people that tend to have had hypos before, or on sulfonylureas, or taking insulin. If you're not in one of those categories, there's actually very little risk to doing high intensity exercise. Some people who have cardiovascular problems might develop some chest pain, and if you do, that's definitely a marker to stop doing the physical activity and seek medical advice. But as we know, in total, for all people with type 2 diabetes, the risks are very, very low. And so I don't want to deter anyone from doing physical activity because of those very small risks. But if you do have them, that is the time to seek medical advice. So if you take a sulfonylurea or you're on insulin, try to avoid doing it within 2 hours of taking those medications, especially within taking a meal and then you're taking your insulin directly after. Try and avoid doing it within 2 hours of that. But aside from that, that's probably the one piece of advice I'd give to those who might be in that risk category.
And frequent monitoring of your blood glucose, I think, is useful, isn't it, Leona? If you're going to take up some physical activity, if you're going to become more physically active, for you as an individual, how your body is going to react to that may differ from other people. So more frequent monitoring may enable you to see exactly what's happening in terms of your blood glucose levels, so that you can plan ahead. And then, whether it's long-acting carbohydrate you need to take on board, whether it's avoidance of the hypos you need to be aware of, then you can sort that out and work with your healthcare team as well.
Not just to say, absolutely, that's absolutely what we'd advise. Again, just starting with just short durations, really, and as you say, monitoring and just seeing how you respond as an individual.
I think that monitoring is especially important in new activities. So if you've gone to Leona, she's giving you a brand new exercise to do. It's really important that time, to the first time you do it, to monitor your blood glucose quite closely to see how you respond to that activity. And you can adjust your meals because of the activities that you're doing, and also possibly adjust your dosage of medication if you need to as well.
And if you wear one of the safety ID badges as well, that may be useful. So exercise just seems to have lots and lots of wins there. So we're talking about short term, helping to improve your blood glucose. We're talking about long term in terms of the HbA1c, that long term test of your blood glucose, helping to improve that, helping to improve your blood pressure, helping to improve your cholesterol, helping to improve your mood, helping to improve your overall well-being, helping to maintain your weight. Leona, Sam, what other benefits? How would you summarise how are you going to get people moving and living with type 2 diabetes and type 1 diabetes? What are the other benefits that you're going to summarise and say?
Yeah, I think just thinking about how the impact on not just yourself but everyone around you, really. Oftentimes people have concerns about am I making time for myself? Is that selfish in some way? And actually recognizing, as well as all the benefits you've just mentioned there, it's can be really inspirational for your entire family, colleagues, and friends, and that's something that we can often forget, actually, and it's really, really important.
Yeah, I think inspiration is a huge thing, and it could be really motivating as well. So you can be a leader and not even without even realizing it. What else would you add, Sam?
I think the main thing is that it actually improves your life expectancy. And I think we don't like to talk about these things a lot, but when we might become sick or might become injured, and being physically fit massively improves your outcome in those scenarios. So type 2 diabetes is one condition, but you might get another, and you want to be strong and fit enough to be able to fight off all sorts of things that might be happening. So you want to be there for your children, you want to be there for your partners, you want to be there for your community, and you can't be there if you're not physically fit enough to be there. So improving your general fitness and improving your life expectancy are the two things I'd add to the host of things we've spoken about today, about how physical activity can improve your life in type 2 diabetes.
Yeah, wonderful, Sam. And also, it's not just about that quantity of your life, but it's about the quality of your life, so that you're going to be healthier in that life that you're living. Absolutely brilliant, guys. Thank you so much. I know there's going to be loads of questions. So thank you very much for all your expertise, all your tips and advice.
Thank you.
Happy to be here.